Hi, everybody. How is everyone? I'm not really any earlier anymore than I thought I was. Um, I just thought it would be fun, useful to hop on and talk a little bit about where we are with everything because I know everybody is. Some of you are on spring break, some of you are closed, and there's nothing going on. Um, yeah, battle fatigued, Carol. That is a great way to describe it. That is even how I feel, and I'm not trying to do it. I'm just trying to support the people who do it. So that is an excellent description. And I'm guessing many of us feel that way. Um, if you're here, I would love to know. Um, I had a question I was going to ask you, and I can't remember what it was. Sorry, my brain is kind of splintered these days. Um, I would love to know what is one thing that you are trying that is working for you. Oh, your upper body hurts. I have fibromyalgia, so I definitely hear you. Um, Stress is not my friend, and I've had that same feeling. Um, So what is if you're already in the distance learning game, what have you found that is working? If you can't find anything, tell me nothing. But I'd love to know you're here. I'd love to know where you're from. And I'd love to know if you have anything that's working for you. And then I said I didn't have an agenda, but you know how I feel about having a schedule. So I kind of thought of just a few things that I thought I'd talk a little bit about. Um, and then I want to leave time for us to chat and discuss. So if you've got questions, go ahead and type them in. I will be happy to. I'm going to go back through and I'll pull them all out at the end and we'll talk a little bit about it. Pamela has a really great strategy that's working. Take it one day at a time. And that is all we can do right now. I don't know about you, but every time I turn around, everything changes. So it's a matter of just trying to figure out what in the world I'm doing now. It also makes it very hard to concentrate because I'm always trying to figure out what's changed. Angie's from Point St. Lucie. Welcome. Not too far from where I am. Carol says, I set up my Google Classrooms, but I'm struggling with how to contact so many parents and students efficiently. I had that question in the academy earlier today. And I would say if they've got email, use email. If you can set up something like Remind at remind.com, then you could use that. That's a good way to send broadcast messages and have office hours of when people can get in touch with you without giving everybody your cell phone number. I think it's important that we do set up some boundaries for ourselves. So that's kind of hard. Hi, Vicki. Trying to distance support your teachers. Oh, that's cool. Anne is a librarian trying to distance support her teachers using Google Hangouts. That is awesome. Anne has a good strategy, making a list every day. That's a great one. And then not kicking yourself if your day got away from you and you don't finish the list. My problem is I keep making lists and then the day changes and I don't look at it. Amy is taking one day at a time in Iowa. Awesome. Oh, this is cool. Maybe I can do it this way. Look at that. For Minnesota, made totes for each child that will be delivered to my families through our transportation department. That's an awesome idea. I love this one. Turn off the TV and the news. I don't have anything but music on. I really want to get to that point. I have cut out watching every single public address, so that is something. I'm recording videos of what we covered during morning meeting, and the families have said that the students are enjoying them. That's awesome, Janine. What a great idea. I love this one. Doing something is better than doing nothing. You are absolutely right. I also think we are not going to know everything that is working or not until this is over. Trying not to overwhelm the parents. And Susan, that's a really, really good point that I think we understand how overwhelmed we are. And then imagine you have multiple children, and some of you do have multiple of your own children, and try to imagine these expectations for those families. And this is not what they asked for when they went to public school or private school. And that, I think, makes it tough. So I do think we have to take that into account. Caroline's using Google Classroom, Google Meet, and Remind. Awesome. That's a great combination. A faculty classroom to support staff. What a great idea, Anne. I love that. Because it's really stressful. Class tag. We heard about that last time. That's working well. Awesome. South Dakota. Welcome, Gina. Google Voice is also another choice. So you could use Remind. You could use Google Voice. Keep breathing. I like that one. Trying to get parents to respond. And I think here's what you have to think about that. Because that has come up a couple times here, and it's come up a couple times I've seen on social media, trying to get parents to respond. I think we have to accept that this is not going to work for every family. I do think there are online things that we can do with most of our students. But I do think there are families that this is just not a time that they're going to be able to devote what they need to during this. And I think that's okay. First of all, if you are a family, I think that's okay. And I think that the district will understand it. I don't know how we would hold these families accountable for these things. I think we have to try and give them things. I think we have to try and keep our students engaged, but I think we have to let it go when we don't get the reaction that we may think that we're going to, because I think a lot of families are dealing with a lot of things. If they have a sick family member, if they live in a place that is a hot spot, that in itself is very stressful. And I think for a lot of us, just getting through the day is enough. So I think when we add these expectations, the desire is to kind of run away at times. And I think that that's okay. So I think that we have to not stress about that too much too, because I think that's really hard, because we want what our kids can do. We want our kids to do well, and we want to support them. And when they're not, sending home simple token economy charts for families that are tied to both assignments and home chores. That's a great idea. Having kids earn extra time with the teacher to play a game for face-to-face time as a reward. That is so cool. I love that idea. Student at Grand Canyon University, working on your master's degree. Welcome to teaching, where you turn on a dime and have to do something completely different. Amanda says, during my school's video chat this morning, we talked about Google Voice so we don't have to use our personal cell phones. I haven't tried it, but others saying, I think it is helpful, because I think you don't want people calling you at all days and nights. You don't necessarily want your cell phone number out there, especially if you're my age. Maybe if you're younger, you don't care. But if you're my age, you don't really want that. Mine's out there because it's my business number. But so I think that's a great solution. Class tag, and I'm going to let somebody who's familiar with it share something, type in what it is, but it's a lot like Remind, and I think it also has a learning platform that is attached to it. I'm not that familiar with that one. Awesome. Karma says she and her parents are posting videos of read aloud songs that we do in class. That's amazing. Yeah. And Veronica says, I'm concerned about sending new work home to families because their students can be aggressive when given new work. And I would say that's actually going to come up. I'm going to talk about a couple strategies, and that's really one of them, that I think we want to start with easy things, particularly. Videotaping you reading to the kids so they can see you. That's awesome. I love that. If I can tackle my lack of tech skills, I'd like to see if I can have my own children at home read some books for your students and post. I think that would be amazing. That is also something that a lot of folks have done if they're trying to keep their paraprofessionals employed and getting paid. One of the things that they have been having paras do is do some of those videos as well. Your state just called off through April. Our governor in Florida, basically, he canceled through April 15th a couple weeks ago and said, we'll consider it later. And then the other day he said, well, we're closer, April, and blah, blah. I'm like, I don't think you told people that. I am located in Florida, Beth Ann. I'm in Central Florida in between Tampa and Orlando. Mildred is using Remind, Google Duo, Google Meet, FaceTime, and Facebook Messenger, and a phone call. Wow. 7 students and 7 different ways to get in touch with them. Flexibility is still our friend. South Carolina. Awesome. Cary, North Carolina. I live not too far from there in Apex, North Carolina. I set parent musical cues for transitions. What a great idea. Okay, I'm going to come back and gather some questions and some more things when I talk. I'm going to talk just a little bit about a couple things I want to share, but I've already shared really great stuff that you guys are doing. Strategies. I think we have to start small. I think if you try to send home a whole IEP week's worth of lessons, that our parents are just going to expire. And as someone pointed out, for our students that are having real struggles with aggressive behavior, you may get some of that. So I would start small. I don't know how many districts are actually thinking at the end that we're going to have met the IEP goals. Unless you are actively having IEP meetings and all of your IEP goals could be met at home, then I think that's going to be a little difficult to use as an expectation. So I don't know that we're really going to, I think we're going to try and teach. And I think there are a lot of things that we can do. There's a couple things that I think we really should keep in the back of our mind as our strategy. I think that keeping our students from regressing is going to be really key. And I think that keeping our students engaged in language activities and learning activities is important if we can, if that's something the families can do. But I talked in this week's podcast about the fact that these are not parents who said, I want to. And if you were a parent who homeschooled your child with an online platform, you would need to provide a facilitator for your student. And that facilitator is not a teacher. That facilitator is somebody who would be like a paraprofessional, somebody who's going to make sure the student does their work and things like that. They can do prompting and things like that. So our families may or may not be equipped to do that during this time period. Many of them may be healthcare workers and they're still working. So who knows who the student is with? They may be with a sibling who's really not going to be a good facilitator. So I think we've got a lot of hurdles that we have to deal with and accept. You know, we're not going to change that at this stage of the game. I think we're going to do the best we can, and that's all that we can do. And I think if we send home materials that keep our students engaged in learning, I think that that is useful. So I think the ideas that you guys have of sending videos home is a really good one. Sending videos home of you doing something to demonstrate how to use a token system that you sent home for the family. Doing videos of read alouds so that you know that your students have the opportunity to hear stories and books. You could add a comprehension piece to that if the family feels that they can follow through with it by just sending home questions they could ask. You could model doing good literacy practice where you read the story and you stop and you ask a question. And then the family sees if they get that answer, and then you continue. So you could even model some of those things that you would like to see the family doing when we're not in homeschool, because that does not come naturally to many of them. You know, as teachers, it's something that we have often done for so long that we don't realize that when you tell somebody, a paraprofessional or a parent, read a story, that they think they're just reading a story. They don't get the millions of questions and stops and discussions and comments that we do when we read a story. So the story takes 5 minutes when for us it would take 20. So I think those are things that we can do. Sending home videos I think is huge, because I think seeing how you engage would do it is helpful. If you want your families to use a visual schedule, I really think that having a visual schedule like the ones in my background, just we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and then you get to do something fun, is a really good way to present this in a new type of setting, because this is going to be so new for some of our students. I think that sending home those visual supports that we use, accommodated and modified for home, is something that's useful, but send home a video of how to use it, because they're not necessarily going to know how to do that. And only give it for a piece of time. Don't try to give them a schedule for the whole day. It's just too much. You know, it's one thing to have a schedule for the whole day when you're a classroom, and that's what you do. But to try to have a family and have everything on a schedule is just unrealistic in most situations. You're going to have to send home, when you think about planning your instruction, you may have different things that go home. So this family may get one activity and this one might get 5, because maybe this one is like chomping at the bit to get their kid engaged in some structure interaction, and this one, not so much. And I think that that's okay too. I think you all also need to take time to be with your own family. So yes, you are working. I'm assuming that if you're working, you're still being paid, and that is a blessing in what's going on in our world right now. And I am thankful for that. But I also think that you have to turn the day off, and it's very easy. Trust me, from someone who runs an online academy, from someone whose life is all work from home, and someone who has done online learning since probably 2008. I can tell you that it is very easy to not set boundaries and have it become a 24-hour kind of thing. You don't want that. You need to be able to spend time with your families. You need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Stressing yourself out at this time is not going to help anyone. When we come back together, when kids come back to school, whenever that is, we will have a chance to figure it out. And my attitude, and I'm guessing that your districts to some degree are going to feel this way as well. If we have to do compensatory, we have to do compensatory. That is basically the feedback that the Department of Education at the federal level has provided. Don't not send work home to all the other kids because you're worried about meeting the special needs. And on the one hand, I look at that and I think, but then we're leaving them out. And on the other hand, I think we're saying we're going to have to do some more when we get back. And I think we just have to know that. So those are some things. Start small. Start with a positive thing that you think the parent can do really successful. A cooking activity, a story reading activity, something that they can do very simply and be successful. Send home an easy success for them so that they're not dreading it. Because otherwise it's going to be like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. Kind of like when I was a kid, and I don't know when you were in school, but when I was a kid, we had new math, which is interesting because my sister's 10 years older than I am, and she also had new math. And my mother dreaded it when I had math homework because she didn't know how to do it. So we don't think often of our strategies as being on that level, but they are. They're natural to us, but they're not necessarily natural to families, and they don't easily fit into the day. So send home the scavenger hunts. Send home a cooking activity. I'm actually going to post some cooking activities. I keep getting distracted by trying to make things online, and then I'm like, let's just do what we have and then figure out what we need. So I think starting small, start with a success, start with something easy that the parents can be successful with. Let them be reinforced, let the kid be reinforced, because the student is probably not used to working with their parent as their teacher. So I think we really have to make sure that we are starting out easy for them so they can be successful. Try not to introduce too much technology to them at one time. Some families will take to it easily, some will really struggle with it. I don't know what all the districts are doing. I know what my district recently came out with were tiers that teachers could choose whether they were going to use an online platform or send home paperwork, depending on what they knew about their students. Because geographically, we're a huge district, and we have rural to urban, and well, sort of urban, suburban. And we have very different needs across the district. So I was happy to see that there were choices for that. I think that, what else was I going to say? So many things I wanted to say. What was I going to say? It may be sharing strategies that you use that are successful at managing behavior with your students. So maybe instead of focusing on the IEP goals, maybe we're looking at how do we help them give choices so that their student buys into what they want them to do? How do we help them be successful? So I think those are really important things. Send home videos, start small, don't overwhelm the family, and do things that will let them be successful, and set boundaries for yourself. So those are kind of just my random thoughts for the day. They're actually much better organized in the podcast from this week at autismclassroomresources.com/episode 31. Which is all about making distance learning work. It's not a how-to. I have a how-to in the academy. I'm in the midst of making one for planning in the academy, but for a podcast, it just kind of gives you some down and dirty ideas of where to get started. So those are just some other ideas that I've had. Okay. Amanda says, I'm having an issue of 1, my kid's not understanding what's going on, and 2, giving their parents a hard time to do work at home. For not understanding what's going on, I would look at sending home a social story or a social narrative that can help them with that. Just to show them, and it may be that a PowerPoint presentation or maybe something that you do with them when you meet with them, but just to tell them things are different. I'm going to work with mom. This is odd, but I'll see my teacher when I go back to school. It's hard because there's no you're going to see your teacher on this day. Giving their parents a hard time, I think start with really easy things. So think about things the kid really likes and encourage the family to do that. The hard part too is you've got to work with the materials that they have. So when I did the scavenger hunts, that if you don't have them, go to my resource library and download them. I had a really hard time coming up with 10 places in the house that had 5 things each that I was pretty sure every house would have. I'm not completely sure I hit the mark on all of them, but I think I got most of them. And then I gave directions for if you don't have them. But I would say give them really easy things. So give them activities like play this game or, and make it not work, I think is going to be key for some of those students. Audible kids books are free. Awesome. But they have to use the webpage and not the app. That's very good to know. Thank you for sharing that, Carol. Terry says, we expect our students to be flexible. Think of this as our test of flexibility. We also expect us to be flexible. It's just now, instead of bending, you're bending over backwards. Instead of just bending with the wind, now you're doing back handsprings. So it's a lot more flexibility, but yes, we have to be flexible. This is, I think, what Class Tag is. Thank you, Janine. It's an app that works on computers and phones. You can connect all the students' families. You can post information and the parents can reply. It's easy to set up and free to use. ClassTag.com. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm just not as familiar with that. And again, I run into issues of should I focus on this? Should I focus on that? Oh, I start on this. And it's like I have no attention span. I finally think I understand ADHD kids. Okeechobee. Again, not too far from me. I'm in Lakeland. Working on the Unique Learning and setting up online students. Awesome. I am so happy that Unique this year included the opportunity to get data from the students' lessons. Janine says, I told my parents that we don't have a magic wand that gets them to work for us either, so take it slowly. Links a playlist for videos and songs I use in class, which help to connect it to school. And remind parents to give lots of breaks. I think that's an excellent, excellent idea. Her parents had the advantage because you homeschooled your four students, four children for 20 years. Awesome. Oh, wow. So they are really lucky. So you really know what this looks like. Alicia says, in response to so much information being shared, I heard some good advice today. Pause and be thoughtful. I like that. I like the way Governor Cuomo in New York is referring to the stay-at-home effort that he has, that it's putting the state on pause. I liked that. Um, Also like it because it's through your school Google account. Google Voice. Awesome. Very cool. Doesn't require handing over your phone. Awesome. Um, Questions you guys have? I think a lot of it is giving yourself permission to start small. Some is better than none, as someone said earlier, and I think that's really important. I think that sharing strategies, and even if you are modeling them with another adult, is really useful. Sending home the working for boards and showing families how to use them. Sending home the visual schedules and showing them how to use them, and then showing them that they don't need to do this all day. And I think that's the other thing we have to realize with planning. If you're doing homeschooling, you're typically not engaging the student from 8 to 3. So you have a lot more flexibility, which actually in some ways works well for our students. And we do have some students that actually would do better with online learning. But I think that making sure that we're okay with the idea that they're going to do one or two things, but that's better than sitting at home and watching TV the whole time. So I think that's a plus. Danielle has a really good question, and my mouse got stuck. There we go. On getting families to understand the importance of connecting with her if she needs something, if they need something. I think that saying it exactly that way is important. I think that maybe sharing strategies, but maybe your first overture to them is not sharing, here's our platform, but hey, how's it going? How's it working in your house these days? What's your schedule like? Because that may also allow you to adapt it a little bit to what their schedule is like. Because if they come back to you and say, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, then you're going to know you really need to start small. But if they come back to you and say, oh, please give me structure, like give me something I can do with this kid, then you know that you can give them kind of more to get that. And some families aren't going to reach out because it's just too stressful for them right now. So I think we have to just kind of accept that, and it's very hard to do. And then we have families that I know there's that fear that they're going to fall off the grid. Like I've got some kids that I know of people that I work with that it's like, I'm afraid they won't come back to school. So, I think, but there's only limited things we can do in a world in which we can't go and be with them. So I think we just have to give ourselves a break about that. But I would just reach out and say, tell me what I can help you with, or what do you want? Or here are some ideas I had, or something like that. Because it's also going to feel like you're not letting my kid come to school, but you still want me to do stuff for some of our families. Thank you, Irene. And this is a very good question. How can we get, I'm assuming you mean eval and not viral IEPs, but if you have viral IEPs, we may have a FERPA issue. How can we get present levels for our upcoming IEPs when we aren't in school to test them? I don't know. The best way I know is to use something like Zoom in a face-to-face video and try to take video or watch video of them, try to interact with them that way, watch how they interact with their parents, ask their parents what you should work on, and things like that. So that to me is kind of what I would do, is to use any assessment information that you have, and then if you can observe them interacting with their family member, reading a story or playing a game, and things like that. I think some of those things will have to be put on hold, particularly if you are doing something older than preschool. Preschool, you can observe a little bit and maybe do some things using that if they have the technology. One of the things I talk about in the podcast this week is the fact that everybody's talking about access, but when they talk about it, at least in the press, they're talking about access to the internet. And when I think about access is access to technology, but it's also access to people who can actually help the student to attend to your conference, to follow your schedule and things like that. And we don't have equal access across the board. And I think we have to recognize that. Um, that is the hard part. I want to do so much for parents. What are the 4 boards? Oh, no. Working 4 boards. Working 4. Um, where are my working 4 boards? Lucy, did you eat the working 4 boards? No? Well, what'd you do with them, honey? They're the token boards that we use for instruction. And apparently I've hidden mine somewhere. They used to be right here. But the working 4 boards that have like 5 tokens and a reinforcer that we use a lot of times, those kinds of things can go home easily. And if you don't know, my terms of use are such that you can send them home. If you've got working 4 boards, token boards that you're using with a student, then send them home. That's fine. Also, though, send home your core boards, your communication systems too. One of the things that you could do as an interaction activity is model using the communication board. Then you're modeling for the family and the kid. So that's nice assisted learning. Since some food supplies are limited now, how do you decide what recipes to send home? I created these cooking units before that and before this all started. So I was making things that I was concerned about, like classes being able to do. So they're non-cook, but they're not necessarily, we have the materials. An answer for that, I would ask them if they have them. It might be something just really simple. You do have some families that are going to say, hey, I'll buy these things if I can get them. And then you may have some that say that they won't. It may be that you say, what is something that you make at home? And then if you've got Boardmaker or Symbol Sticks or one of those, make them a visual recipe and send it home. So that may be a way to do it. Maybe we take their lead on that. That's a great question. One thing to caution teachers about, there are so many resources that a lot of times we feel like we are missing something, so we get overwhelmed. If you find something that works for you, use it. Don't worry that you aren't doing this right. Thank you, because you are doing it differently than someone else is. There is no right way to do this because we have never done this before. That is the best advice I think I've heard, Janine. Thank you. And that is extremely true. We've never done this before. Nobody knows how to do it. If you're a Brene Brown fan, go find her blog. She has an amazing blog post, and it's about teaching online and how it's always bad when you start. It just always is. And you just have to accept that. It doesn't go the way you wanted it to. Thank you, Janine. That's awesome. Colleen says she's encouraged parents to involve students in everyday activities like folding and sorting laundry, socks, help cooking. One parent responded that he loves washing dishes. That's awesome. He can come to my house. If you have a kid that likes to do laundry, could you send him my way? Because that'd be really helpful. I've been trying to get Lucy to do the laundry, and she doesn't. Lucy's my dog, for anyone who doesn't know that. My fear are the families that will fall off the grid. I know. And worry about them not doing digital learning at all. I know. And at some point, we have to let that go and focus on what we can fix. This is really a huge lesson in letting go of the things you cannot control, and changing the way we think about them, because we don't have a lot of control in this situation. And for the control freaks in us, it doesn't work very well. Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah. And EJ says, pick the recipe that they can do. They can pick the recipe and let you know how it went. Awesome. And that works really well if the kids have their own communication boards too, or communication materials. Is it important to be at school with a familiar background? Well, I don't think so. They're going to recognize you. And in fact, you can set Zoom up so that it puts a different background behind you, depending on how your background works. And you can do the same thing with Zoogle. With Zoogle. See, I've combined Google and Zoom, and now there's Zoogle. If you're using Google Hangouts, you can do that as well. So you could just make it something else. But no, it's going to be different enough that you're sitting in a chair on their computer. I don't think your background's going to make a big difference. Yeah. And Colleen says, I'm in the South Bronx with limited to no access to technology. And one of the things I know a lot of teachers have said is, all my stuff's at school. We were on spring break when they closed school. And again, you can't do anything about it. So you've got to let it go. Don't stress yourself out about things you cannot change. How do I feel about a daily visual schedule activity for binders for low students? I would start families, unless they're really ambitious and have used schedules before, I would start them hopefully with things that are not falling over. Velcro is falling off of things. I would start them with just like 3 things. And you may have independent work. You could set independent work up with them. You could show the families how to do that. But it might just be, we're going to do some math, then we're going to do some reading, then we're going to do independent work. Same thing with pictures. Oh, there's my picture one. I feel like I've just thrown things around my office. And so I might just send home, just use these for now. Or just do bedtime routine if that's what they're struggling with. Or just use the kitchen routine if that's what they're struggling with. If they identify something that they're struggling with, I think it's okay. I think when you ask a family to do a whole day schedule, some families, a few will be able to do it, but most of it is overwhelming, especially when it's like, well, that was great. I had that on the schedule, but now the governor's talking and I need to hear what he's going to say and I can't do the reading with him. So you may want to include in your visual schedules, I'm about to make a video of this for the Academy, so I'm glad I thought of it, what to do when something changes and it's no longer an option, that you want to go take it off real quick. Oops, I can't find the math worksheet, so I took it off the schedule. Yeah, check your schedule. So I would do that, but I would use something. Yeah, I use a takeaway schedule with that because they're not transitioning around the house as much. So we just take it off. I've also done it where I put Velcro on the front and they just turn it over if you don't want them leaving it all over the house. That makes it easier because then it just stays in one place. That's a great question. I know. I know. I have a new way to practice taking data. You want to count how many times I touch my face. Now, I have not left my house in days. So, and I live alone. So, everything in my house, there should be no coronavirus in my house. But yes, I need to not touch my face and I can't do it. That's why that's why I'm on a stay-at-home order. Because I'm also on a stay-at-home order because I'm an introvert and I like to stay at home. Let's see. I'm in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we have many students that don't have access to the internet. Comcast is offering 2 months free internet access for families that are low income. The URL is internetessentials.com if you want to pass it on. Thank you so much, Janine, for sharing that. That is awesome. We do have some students that find seeing us harder on the parents. They're too confused. And I would say that maybe send home, if they can understand a social story, send home a social story, maybe a video, or have their parents, give their parents a script of how to talk about it. And then do little bits at a time. And keep in mind that even your highest kids, even typical kids, aren't going to be able to sit for longer than 15 minutes at a computer and listen to you. So we're never going to get, online learning is not about, I'm going to replace my classroom learning with online learning in the same manner. It is a mix of, typically, of synchronous, where we're doing, which is what we're doing right now, versus asynchronous, which is what we're doing if I put a picture out and you comment on it on Facebook and I come back later and comment back on it. That's an asynchronous kind of strategy. So it's going to be a mix, typically, of face-to-face. It may be all asynchronous, but usually there's going to be, we're going to talk about this, and then you're going to go do an activity. And then we'll talk about it some more tomorrow. So you're not going to be online with them for the whole time. Any advice on what paras can do right now? You know, I'm getting that question a lot. That's a really good question. I've had a number of people have told me things that they are doing. One has her paras who I guess have technology, knowledge, and access. She's using Google Classroom, and she is putting stuff in the Google Drive, and they are responsible for putting it out on Google Classroom and assigning it to the students. So they're kind of doing tech backup. Other ones have been making videos of reading stories. I think it would be great for them to make, if they can, make videos of reading stories using a visual schedule. Some of your strategies, if they know how to use the strategies and could do a video of that, that would be great. Some of them have them going to professional development. Some of them, somebody just sent me something about this. Now, I have no memory, so I can't remember what it was. Doing a video of them reading aloud, and then the students can have a virtual book chat. So I think that's a great idea. I think you just have to really get creative. But again, I want to find things for paras to do because I want them to get paid. So I'm all for finding stuff. And I think that also takes some of the burden off of you. So I think that's a plus. Yes, when your students learn almost completely hand over hand through discrete trials, is it appropriate to send videos to parents on how to run them? If you have any opportunity to do a Zoom face-to-face kind of thing with the parent and the student, I would think about you giving the directions and walking the parent through it rather than just using a video of how to do it. Another option is TeachTown, which is a discrete trial online program. It's all game focused, but it's got ABA principles it's built on. Is engaging for a lot of our students, and they're offering free trials for this time period. So that may be another way to go. Just because I don't think you want your students getting into bad habits with discrete trials because the families don't really know how to do it. And I think that makes it hard. I also think it's really hard to ask parents to learn all new skills right now. Students with very high needs, they have difficulty using technology. Therefore, I don't know how to help. I know that I could send things home, but a majority will not get it done, or parents will not allow for their student to do work without giving answers. Yeah. I think sending things home, like the scavenger hunts, ways to play games, how to engage your student. You can also send home videos of kind of how to do that, but send home one and just see how it goes. Take their questions. Ask them what they want. Many of them don't know how to fade those prompts, so that becomes really hard. And it's really hard to watch your kids struggle the way that we make our kids struggle in order to learn. So I think you have to kind of accept that, again, not everybody is going to learn in this way. Should the daily schedules sent home to families be the same that are used in the classroom? You know, I've gone back and forth about that. And I know, stop touching my face. This is why I have to live by myself. Different ones could confuse some students, but I generally find if I'm using something like the symbols, that they can adapt pretty easily. And then maybe take those same symbols and just have the parents put them on the table where they're going. Because then they know I match this to that. So maybe they could create little check-in areas, or they put them on the outside of the folders or something like that, so that they can see, I'm going to be doing this and it's what's in that folder, or I'm going to be doing this and it's what's in that basket. So you could do it this way. You could do colors. you could send home different ones, but then they have to learn them all over again. This way, at least they know, if they know what reading is, we're going to do reading. It's going to look different than it does at school, but everything looks different. So I would probably try the same ones. And if it doesn't work, send home different ones. I wouldn't go out of your way to make all new ones until you know whether or not what you have works. And I would say that's in general what we're all doing. It's all trial and error, and it's going to be different for every single student. So not only don't feel bad if you're not doing what another teacher is doing, don't be surprised if what works for one student doesn't work for another. That's who our students are. So, and that's who our families are. Some are going to take the stuff and run with it. Some are going to struggle. And so I think that I would start with what you have and then change it if it doesn't work. Do you have any suggestions? I have quite a few parents who are low and don't understand. I think we have to focus on what we can do. So if you send home like a little activity, like, do they have bubbles at home? Could you teach them how to work on communication that way? How to play on the playground. Here's a play script if you've got young kids, or have your kids fold laundry. If you've got older students, look at those life skills and send home visual supports for that. The kids may do it on their own if they're familiar with them. But no, I mean, I don't know that there is an answer for that. I don't think you're missing something, Danielle. Good. I think, and it's funny because what I'm seeing is not at all unusual to what we see. But I'm seeing a lot of folks saying, oh, kids with special ed can learn online. And they can. They definitely can. And the majority of special ed kids can definitely learn online because they're sitting in gen ed classes. And they can follow directions and they can communicate effectively. And their problem is in reading or math. Their problem isn't in responding to their name. And so we're talking about a different group of kids, and nobody really gives a lot of strategies for those. And so just remember, we're thinking outside the box because we're living outside the box, except for me. In my house, I live in the box. I think outside the box, but I live in the box by myself. More ideas for parents. Awesome. Parents can put task folders together, one-step task boxes and independent games, stuff that you buy that needs to be put together. Yes. Have them make work tasks, have them make the schedules, have them make file folders that you could send home to the kids. I think that's an awesome idea. Thank you, Carmen. TeachTown. If you just Google TeachTown and look for TeachTown Basic. TeachTown Basic is their online program that is focused on discrete trials. So teachtown.com will get you there. Oh, okay. Jacob's Lessons. I've not heard of that one. Is discrete trial online and free. Awesome. I had not heard of that one. I'll have to look into that one. Yes, and only having families that speak different languages is also a struggle. That is really hard, and I don't have any great solutions for that either. If one of your paras also speaks Spanish, could they translate some things for you? That might be a good role for them as well. You missed my response to hand over hand discrete trial comment. Yeah, if you have any kind of face-to-face, I would not necessarily send a video home and expect families to be able to do discrete trials correctly. It's not as simple as it is simple, but it's not as simple as it seems to do all of them together. I would do it where I am face to face with the family member and the student, and I'm prompting the parent, and I'm giving the SD and then reinforcing based on performance, and I'm coaching the parent. But instead, I also might look at signing up for TeachTown and having that student enroll in that as an online discrete trial program, or Jacob's Lessons that somebody just brought up is another option. Yeah, don't worry about whether the work is done. The work I sent home for my families was things they could do with their children because their parents don't know what to do. And it's okay if the parents give the kids their answer. Now, here's where our students with autism's lack of generalization will come in very handy, because our kids will learn to do things one way at home, and then they'll go back to the way that we do it at school when they get home, when they get back to school. So let's hear it for lack of generalization. Who knew it was an advantage? Yeah. And she's exactly right. Since we can't know what each student has learned, we are limited in the kind of data that we're going to get. If you are told by your district that you, thank you for bringing up that question or that point. If you are told that you are going to need to have grades, data, show progress, then I don't think you're going to get it for every parent. I just don't. But here's some ways that you can do it. Have the parents videotape their kids doing the activity. Have them do the activity or whatever the skill is with you when you're online with them. So flip the classroom, send home the practice materials ahead of time, and then do the assessment face to face. Another way is if there's anything you can use work product for, use work product. So if they're writing their name, if they're tracing, if they're doing anything that creates a paper product, do that. If they're doing anything that creates like an art project or something like that, have the parents take a picture of it, use Seesaw or something similar, and send you a picture of it. If you want, you can use the work product data stickers that you can download and print on stickers, or they can paper clip them to the item because they may not have stickers at home. You could send stickers home depending on how you're communicating with them. I know I'm touching my face. Then you may, and then have them just document lots of help, a little help, no help, and just use that as your prompting hierarchy. But I don't think we're going to be able to really master out IEPs. Do I have visual schedules for that? Yes, they're in my life skills bundle, and I will find a link for you for that. They're in my life skills mini schedules in my store. Touching my face. Because as soon as I try not to touch my face, it itches. Not all the parents only speak, just in one family, the parent only speaks Spanish. Thank you for clarifying that for me. Tons on Pinterest. Yeah, and we're all writing blog posts and doing things about ways that, things that you can do. But again, don't let that make you feel like you are doing something wrong if you're not doing that. Hopefully I just answered the question about IEP goals and data. It's very hard to not be able to give students direct praise for work that they complete. Text messages to parents in hopes. If you can send home a video and you see work that they're doing, maybe make them a quick video if you can shoot that to them, if that's a possibility. But again, it depends on what they have access to. Good. Veronica has come out with a new list of, of things to do. Video modeling for all the activities you're working on with students. I think that's awesome. And it may not, and I think that's a really good point. These videos may not get used right now by the family, but you'll have them when you get back. So you'll be able to use them to train paraprofessionals that are new in your classroom. You'll be able to use them in parent training. You'll be able to use them for video modeling if you have a student who can do it. So yes, they will have a life behind this. So don't get rid of them when we go back to school. There's lots of stuff you can do. Google Hangouts with district approved translators. So that's a great thing. That's awesome. I have not heard of Bitsboard. Cool. I am trying, in my copious free time that I don't have, to move some of my file folders to Google Slides activities so that they can actually drag the pieces over. I have to navigate some different copyright rules for using the art, but I'm trying. I don't know if I will accomplish it before we go back to school, but I'm also trying to make direct distance learning training for people in the academy. So, oh good. I'm glad that this has relieved your anxiety. That's really the reason I decided to do it. Where can you get free pictures if I can't see your teachers or speech therapists? Is there a website? I don't know. Lesson pics, I'm not sure if it's free or not, but that might be an option. I have some leisure schedules in my resource library and some communication visuals in my resource library as well. They're limited in what they have, but you certainly could send them electronically home. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but do you have a language bank near you? Check with your administrator to use it, or if they have people in the district that can translate. Awesome. Woohoo. To keep our little ones connected with each other while they are at home, I invited them to join you in birthday greetings to each other through Remind and Class Dojo. That's awesome. One of her parents recorded a little one singing happy birthday to one of their peers. I love that. What a cool idea. See, it is amazing what teachers can do with very little time and very high expectations. A translator, I know. It is hard when you can't talk to them directly. Next Gen Visual is a good way to track IEP goals. Not perfect, but that would be a good alternative. That's a great idea. I haven't even tried Next Gen Visual. I've tried old Visual from way back. I think you send home videos for a nonverbal student. You send home videos that show how to tempt them to communicate effectively. So if you do a Google search for communication temptations, you will probably find some videos that you could send home to do that, or you could just show it. And communication temptations are just things like must be in the other drawer. Wind up toys, bubbles, where you're winding it up and it goes and it goes. I can't do some things without props, apparently. It goes and it goes, and when it stops, and then if they reach for it, or they hand it to you, or they have a picture that they can ask, or they get some kind of vocalization, we wind it up and give it back to them. They could do it with bubbles. They can do it with food. They can do all sorts of things with that. So that might be something that would be a good use of their time. You are very welcome, Danielle. I'm glad you tuned in. The work product stickers are they're something you can print on sticker paper. And let me see if I have a picture of them. I'll see if I can share my screen. Go away. Go away. Okay, this is, let me share what, hold on. Okay, if you focus on this one, this is my resource library, and I will move my agenda over here, over there. Thank you. I could get rid of it actually. And if you go to the printable library, there are a number of things you can download, and one of them are the work product stickers. And the work product stickers, I'm going to enlarge this so that you can kind of see what they look like. They are just stickers that I put on the back of work product that tell whether or not a student did it independently or needed a prompt, what kind of prompting, what activity they were in. So in school, they're much more detailed. But you could either make your own, or there are different kinds of things that you can do with them. But I print them on sticker paper, but you could easily paper clip them or staple them to work product. Here they are. So here you see, was an adapted assignment, extra time. So I printed on sticker paper, then they fill it out, and all they have to do is stick it to the activity. But they could also paperclip it or staple it. I just use them in the regular class. Okay, let me go back. Okay, where are we? Okay, I'm going to start winding up, but Google Classroom has been great communication for your families, and they're sending video to you. Oh, that's wonderful, because I know one of the hard things is not being able to see the kids. I just left a district that I consulted with for 10 years, and I still miss the kids. Google Translate app can go between 2 languages. Great idea. 4 languages. Lesson Picks is not free. Thank you. I misspoke. Boardmaker does have a 1-month free trial. I would not suggest that your families try to figure out how to use it, though. I would make it for them and send them home. Symbol Sticks is an inexpensive system. Smarty Symbols is free right now. Thank you. Yes, Smarty Symbols is free, and that's a really great suggestion. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I use it all the time. Oh, good. I'm glad it was helpful, EJ. Google Classroom is working well. I'm able to load up all sorts of videos. Great for instructional videos, for teaching academics and modeling. Awesome. I love your profile picture. Oh, another place for free picture visuals, connectability. Yes, there are some inexpensive visual schedules. Simply Special Ed has a home schedule. I don't know exactly what it consists of. We actually talked a little bit about that beforehand, so you may want to go back and watch it, but we talked about having them make materials, do videos of read alouds. They could upload, if they have technology, upload material. But I gave a whole list of things that might be helpful. Affirm. Oh, they have visual schedules? Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that. So Affirm has visual schedules and social narratives for staying at home. Awesome. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Flipgrid to work on verbal skills. Workpacker sticker on a rubber stamp. Yeah, we originated ours with a rubber stamp. Rubber stamps are expensive when you want to put a bunch of stuff on them. So we switched to stickers. Class Dojo has automatic translation in their parent messenger. That's awesome. Oh, that's a tricky question. It's a good question. How do you suggest sending Boardmaker boards to families? I would make them a PDF and send them to your families, because they're not going to be able to open them without Boardmaker otherwise. And I see that as no different than printing it for a physical. I print stuff and send them home all the time. So I would put it in a PDF, or print it and mail it is another option. Or the buses drop it off. I know some of you said that you guys are doing that. Does it work? Does what work based, Karen? Boardmaker? Lucy, no one wants to listen to you growl. I'm not quite sure what the question was. If you take Boardmaker and print it, oh, Dojo. Okay, I don't know the answer to that question, so hopefully the person who said it, maybe Rachel, can share that. I would guess it would go both ways. Otherwise, it's not really that useful. All right, thank you so much. Yep, I can. It's actually up the comments a little bit. Here you go. If you just search for Affirm modules, you'll find it. I think it's on the page for Smarty Symbols. All right. It's been an hour. You guys need to go relax. I need to go relax. I need to go make another video. But thank you so much. I hope that this has been helpful. Keep commenting if you have questions, and I will make sure to check back. And You're doing great. Just hang in there and we will get through this. This will end at some point. We just have to maintain it while it's going. All right. Everybody have a very good evening.